Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of the. I nearly messed up there. The House of Horrors podcast.
Lord.
I know it's in the Geek Week in Review.
Oh,
The
Lord,
House of
Lord,
Horrors
Lord.
podcast. And obviously, Ryan's back. Yay!
What
Sorry
up?
we missed last week. It was a bit of a hectic week, and it was easier. Obviously, I would have been on my own, and I didn't want to chat on my own. That's not fun. So we're waiting for good old Ryan to come back.
He's got the rest of that. He's got the rest of his YouTube channel for that.
Yay! So today we are going to be joined in a little bit by Tori from the In Search of Darkness 90s through 94. She'll be joining us a little bit later on in the podcast today. But first, Ryan, how you been?
Mate, I am beyond jet lagged. I have had 2 hours sleep in the last 48 hours. But you know me, I absolutely adore this show. So there's no way I'm not doing this show. So I'm here. I'm here for the duration. But yeah, New York was awesome. However, it says, okay, so how comes Ryan's stream is live and this one isn't? Because you got to watch it on my channel now. I'm joking. I don't actually know. I think he forgot to press play. This is live. Thank you, Andy H. Yeah, New York was amazing. However, I will say, New York City, you let me down. It was very lacking in its Halloween stuff, considering how close we are to actual Halloween. I mean, it's not why I went, obviously, but you know, I had high hopes because it was America, the land of Halloween.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not gone live on you. Sorry, just to answer people's comments, I'm not sure why it hasn't gone live on my YouTube as it should. I don't know what's going on. It does say I'm live, but it's just not, for some reason, it's not playing ball. Although, no, it is. No, it is. It's there. It's there. Oh. It's live. It's viewable. Maybe refresh your screens. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's live and it's working on mine.
Look, don't ruin my elaborate plan to get more views on my channel by sabotaging your stream.
Yeah,
right.
I think
I worked
think
very
it was
hard
just,
on that.
I think it was just a bit delayed, but we're there now. It seems to be working, and we do have Tori with us as well. Tori, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Thanks
yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for coming along. Yeah. So, Tori, what time is it over there?
It is like 3:30 p.m. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I know you've just said you were coming from meetings to meetings today to join us, so I do appreciate it.
My watch is still set on that time, so I can confirm it to be 3:34. I've just realised I've not changed it.
I was also just in New York. What were you in New York for?
So my friend got married in Hudson, so
nice.
Naturally, what we did was we thought like we'll just try and make a trip out of it. But honestly, what is going on with the lack of Halloween decorations in New York? I'm not angry, but I am disappointed.
I mean, I'm from Massachusetts, and like Go Sox, like we're way better than New York. So I think that was the mistake, clearly.
Obviously, I didn't even get that much Halloween stuff when I was there. I got myself a little Halloween special Ninja Turtles comic.
That's pretty cool, though.
Puppet Master figure.
Ooh.
And the only other thing, which is probably the lamest thing to get excited about, but I got myself a little Killer Clowns from Outer Space bag.
A
very niche horror thing to get excited about.
But
that was it for Halloween.
You finally got to pay pilgrimage and go to Spirit Halloween.
I did, by accident. Like, just on the last day today. No, not today. I've lost track of all time. To me, it feels like today because I've not been to bed for like 2 days. But I was just walking down to go and see something, and there was just tucked in this old shop. I saw like the Spirit Halloween banner. I was like, could it be? Is it this? What's this? And I went in there, and it was glorious, and I loved it. And that's where I actually got the bag from. But then I also realized, because I'd already packed all my suitcases, they'd already been checked in, and we were just sort of walking around last minute. I was like, I can't really get that much here, hence the carrier bag.
Yeah.
And Ghostbusters badge, because you know, got to look official.
Did you visit the firehouse?
Yeah, straight afterwards. Yeah. That's actually pretty much what I was on the way to do. And there was an Ecto One parked outside, so I was very happy.
Nice. Yeah, Tori, in the UK, we do not have Spirit Halloween. It is not a thing over here.
I
can even confirm by showing you that the movie is even called Spooky Night over here, because apparently we don't know what Spirit Halloween is.
Couldn't even be the same name. It needed to be something totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a wedding in England, like it was November 1st, and I was really upset that I had to travel to England and know that like I couldn't do spooky Halloween things because there just like weren't any spooky Halloween things to do. Yeah.
It is, it's tragic. Gotta have Halloween
Yeah.
things. It started getting better in the UK now,
It
to be
has.
fair. It started
Yep.
getting better. And I've literally, I'm in a building with just 5 flats in it. But I have effectively forced all my neighbors to now start loving Halloween. Because I decorate the whole main hallway, and then I've now also made them just say, I'm decorating your doors as well. And I do that on like October the 1st. So they love it now, I think.
It's a good tradition.
It is.
Nice one. Ryan, I think you're going to be happy with me today because I did get an Arrow release DVD with me, a Blu-ray, today. And it is probably the naffest sounding movie I've ever found in my life, and I had to own it. You know, I'm like cheesy horror. No. Phantom of the Mall.
Yeah.
Oh.
I saw that cover and I'm like, I have to own this movie. This looks terrible. I love a
like
good old bad horror film.
In the league of Chopping Mall, if we're talking about mall horrors.
Yeah, I had to get that, and I also got The Ring as well for reasons. I need to watch Ringo.
I love that for reasons. For reasons.
I've never officially seen the Japanese one. That's terrible, isn't it? I know. I've never officially seen the Japanese one. I've only seen the Western release. So.
Well, that's your channel boycotted.
I know. I know. So
yeah.
Tori will soon realize that Ryan's here for all the deep cut that way. Ryan's here for all the deep cut stuff because my horror knowledge is all commercialized stuff. I'm the Freddy, Jason, and Michael guy. And Ryan will just throw out these films at me that I've never heard of, and he gives me homework every week to go away and find them out.
I'm like the advocate for films like Flight of the Living Dead, which I'm still trying to have a cult following because I love that film.
I gotta write that one down.
Oh yes, spreading the word. This is how it starts.
Yeah.
This is how I get it onto the documentary. I get it a whole featured chapter. This is what happens, you see. The next thing you know, it's like there's a whole an hour dedicated to Flight of the Living Dead, and they're like, "That's a bit out of character."
It's just a documentary about that movie. All of a sudden,
yeah. In search of the Flight of the Living Dead. It works. It's got a good ring to it.
Oh yeah.
But Ryan, as well this week, SFX released their Halloween special. So you got to go pick that up. You've missed that while you were away, and the new issue of Scream's out as well. Yeah. New issue of
there was a couple of good horror magazines in the US, but the problem is also I was on such a budget and they were like $13 each, and I was like, I don't have that, especially at the airport when it's like, oh, do you want a bottle of water? For some reason, that's more expensive than soda. So, so like, well, you can afford to be dehydrated, but not hydrated, you fool. Sorry, Tori, I go off on random tangents, and
no, I love it.
that's good. That works.
But I did pick up some other stuff this week, Ryan. All Hallows Eve box set.
Nice.
See,
it's nice.
You know who's in this film, don't you?
Well, it's not me.
Terrifier. This is where the Terrifier came from.
Oh, this is the original. This is the short, isn't it?
These are the originals, yeah. All Hallows Eve and All Hallows Eve The Reaping both feature Art the Clown before the Terrifier. He came in these films first.
The original, the OG.
The original, the OG.
And then I had it casually on a free streaming when I was out on the TV in America, and I was just like, oh, I love how casually just like Terrifier is available on Tubi. Like, but with like really like friendly adverts in between, because like Tubi's like this free one where they just randomly put adverts in. But there's one where you just do this whole thing where it's like, it's like someone's face is being like ripped off or whatever, and then it's next is like, do you always have trouble going to the bathroom? Don't worry, TurboLax 5000 is just. Which also they're terrifying because they do like the thing about like the pharmaceutical bit, like it can help you for 3 seconds, and then it's 2 minutes solid of you may die, your face may fall off, your leg may move. It's like you're like, why would I buy this?
I love every time we go to Florida, I just love turning the TV on and just listening to the adverts. The adverts out there are amazing. Our adverts in English are so boring. It's like, this is a hard pill. It may cause death. Do not take.
In the UK, it's more just like, in the UK, it's more just like, we got this. If you want it, it's available. End
of advert.
Will it kill you? Who knows?
Yeah, we like a bit of mystery. A bit of mystery.
And because you shouted at me in the last podcast because I skipped a Michael Myers movie, do you remember that one where we casually reminded me that I've never seen H2O? So I went out and bought the I went out and bought the 3-film box set, so I've now got H2O Resurrection and Curse of Michael in my collection. So I get to sit through the worst of the Halloween films, including one with Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes. Yes,
Mate, is it the worst, or is it actually just a roller coaster of emotions that you're not prepared for?
mate. There was YouTubers now before YouTube existed.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? They were wandering around the
Yeah.
house filming it for something or other. I'm sure it was like some weird website.
To be fair, I think it's in the same era as when Kelly Rowland was apparently texting in Dilemma, but it was an Excel spreadsheet on the phone.
Oh dear.
We do talk about horror, so if you notice this, like you're probably thinking like, going, "I'm here to talk about this amazing documentary," and
These two idiots.
with these professional talking heads, and there's these two absolute muppets just chatting absolute rubbish. But this is what we do.
No, it's perfect.
But I finally got around to finishing the House of Usher as well while you were away.
Was it good?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was weird, but it was good. But that made me go back and buy the Arrow box set. So plus
Ooh.
that, so now I've got all the originals to sit and watch. Although I realised that Mask of the Red Death isn't in it, so I need to pick that up as well.
Oh, Mask of the
Sorry.
Red Death is so good.
Yeah.
Any purchases in the last week, Tori?
Oh, good call. Well, I was at Brooklyn Horror Fest for the whole week last week. So I'm like still recovering a little bit, even though it's been a couple days. But Arrow was there, so I bought the One Missed Call trilogy because I really loved the first one, and I'm excited to see the other two. And then Aubrey Rose, because I haven't seen that either, and it was like $10. So I was like, sure. Yeah. But I also like looked at all their stuff and I was like, I can't remember which of these I actually own or not. And that is like one of my biggest problems as a collector now. So I was like, I'm going to go on the safe side and pick the ones I'm like 90% sure I don't own.
My partner is a spreadsheet nerd, and so I have got like a mobile spreadsheet now with every DVD we own. It's even color coded to see if it's Blu-ray, if it's part
That's
of a box
amazing.
set. Yeah, my other half is incredible at that.
Yeah.
Caroline she just gets spreadsheets now, and now it's on my phone. I just feel like Minority Report, but like, in like a horror nerd sitting there going like swipe. I'll take it. But yeah.
I need to get that organized. I'm just always like, yeah, someday I'll do that.
Yeah. Get around to it when I'm not spending a whole week at a horror convention. Then maybe
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Exactly.
You guys get 88 films though as well, which is one that I think their region locked 88 films. I think it's 88 films with the company. They do some really good horror films, but unfortunately, or is it Screen Factory? I get confused. There's so many little independent ones now, but there's quite a few independent sort of film labels at the moment. They're doing some really good releases, but unfortunately, they're region locked. Because it's really expensive to get a region-free Blu-ray player
which I have, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not techie enough to crack. Apparently, I can crack the PlayStation somehow, but again, it's like 90s hackers level for me. I've got no idea what's going on.
I would break the PlayStation.
Unless it's just turn it upside down. That's probably the level of expertise I could apply to trying to make it do something. Actually, I might try that. No, I shouldn't try that.
On the kind of no, it's not horror in the slightest, but I have to show you because it's amazing. I found them this week as well.
Oh,
We're barley and barley. Woo. I had to grab them.
They're ghosts. It counts.
It counts.
True.
It counts. It toe counts.
But again, that's like sort of gateway stuff. You know, you're saying like about gateway, so things like
that's segue, Ren.
Thank you. Look, so damn professional. And now back to you for the weather. But seriously, like gateway stuff, like it is funny how many things aren't like Halloween that sometimes are, like things like Christmas Carol, because you forget Christmas Carol is all about ghosts. It's a bit like how technically It's a Wonderful Life as a science fiction, if you look at it in a weird kind of way. It's about sort of time travel and removing oneself from existence. So, like Muppets Christmas Carol was actually something that really sticks in my head from ghosts as a kid, because the chains and the little talking boxes, that really stuck with me as a kid. Even like Casper, for example, like the 90s movie, which is technically canon with the Ghostbusters, just throwing it out there. And also the same house where Backstreet's Back was filmed, which is one of my favorite bands and music and songs of all time.
Oh.
So segues, just like loads of useless knowledge. Don't remember where I live, but I remember that. It's great. But, you know, those segue things, like, you know, seeing those things as kids, like, you know, you can show a kid like Muppets Christmas Carol, and it's like maybe their first sort of experience of ghosts, and then you're like, okay, what else can I sort of push, get them warmed up on horror.
See, I remember Erie, Indiana on Fox Kids,
Mhm.
and that was the weirdest TV program ever made for children. I still have no idea what's going on with that to this day.
Yep.
That was the weirdest program ever made, but it had Dominic Katz in it from Hocus Pocus. Or this was pre Hocus Pocus though. I looked it up the other day, and it was pre Hocus Pocus, wasn't it, Erie, Indiana? So, but yeah.
Ooh. I remember there was one episode where his braces could take up radio signals, and there was like, and then the dogs attacked him. And the funny thing is, because I don't know if you noticed this, but I am slightly eccentric, so I had to sort of think like, did this actually happen? Because then I got into my head that like there was an episode where they recast them and they talked to themselves through the TV, and I was like, that definitely didn't happen. But I actually think it did happen now, because if it did happen with the talking braces thing, then that's probably weirder. So I would assume it did happen.
It's just a weird fever dream.
Wasn't that something to do with? Wasn't that something to do with Erie, Indiana, the other dimension? Because that would start with them on the TV screen,
That
and the
was
other
it.
one, the other characters from the other dimension were talking to them through the TV, wasn't there?
See, I just put like pictures out. Ash is like the spider web thing. He puts like the lines through the bits of string. He's like, yeah, this is normal common sense stuff now.
I see why you make a perfect team. This all makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very logical. Like I go off on random mad tangents, and Ash just sort of reels me in, or just goes, yeah, that does link to this.
But yeah, I just remember that I had there was Jason Marsden was in Erie, Indiana, and there was just like so many random little like cameos from like people that are like big and famous now. But they're really like the TV show featured a guy play like Elvis Presley, for God's sake, was one of the main characters in the show. What is going on there? It was just the weirdest program ever made. But on the way of Gateway Horror, Are You Afraid of the Dark genuinely scared me as a child.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
I was a Goosebumps kid, and I think I was a little bit too young for the Are You Afraid of the Dark one, but that terrified the life out of me.
If I heard the music,
yeah,
the theme would start playing, and I would have to like run out of the room. Like I'd be like, I can't listen to this.
But you look back now, and it is terrible, isn't it? When you rewatch some of these ones on YouTube now, it is awful, isn't it? Like the one with the cloud. Like we always going about the one with the cloud, Ryan. Like I was genuinely terrified of that as a kid. Now you look back and there's
big bag of nope.
Yeah, there's that weird guy who's going, you lost this cloud nose, boy. Like, that's not scary at all. As a kid, I ran behind the sofa.
Now you're just like, oh my god, the production value. Oh. Yeah, but it's like Goosebumps though. When you look at some of my favorite things about Goosebumps is it's always meant to be set in America, but it's always filmed in Canada. So they're always like, oh, this house of the dead. They got to get out now. It's so all these kind of weird like things, and you're like, that doesn't make sense. And then like Ryan Gosling's in one episode as like Say Cheese and Die, and he had the same haircut, I think, for like probably about 20 years after that as well, and then changed it for Barbie. But like that was one of those things again, like with the music. The minute like if I turned on Fox Kids and I heard the little piano bit, I'm like, oh, I love it. And Adam West was in one. Let's not forget as well.
Yeah, and Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen
was in it as well.
It's the fact that Adam West like actually just played basically
Adam
Batman.
West.
He played, yeah, that's the last time they deal with Adam West. But he just comes in as the Galloping Gazelle, which is like the most bizarre thing. But that one scared me as a kid. I hadn't seen it until again like last year. So I watched most of them because they were on Netflix, and I watched it. And I was just like, this is like, if anything, this is like a drug trip. I wouldn't say this is scary anymore. Like this is just actually insane.
Yeah, it literally is just Adam West is that weird character just strapped down the kid trying to save her, going, "You gotta get me out. The Phantom, the Masked Menace will be out in a minute." It was so bad. But my favorite one was always that. I'm a big fan of the opera fan. So my favorite was the Phantom of the Auditorium with the weird kid.
Yes.
Who lived under the stage apparently. The school.
Yeah, I literally walked away from every trap door. There was like 3 or 4 trap doors in my high school on the stage, and I was just like, "Nah, I know what's down there. I'm not doing that." I never did find out what was down there. I went there to school for like so many years, never found out what was under it.
But you're still alive, so there you go.
There you go. The other 6 kids. Well, that's another episode. What was your one growing up, though? Sorry, what was your like main one then?
I think so. I watched one that was called So Weird, and it was on the Disney Channel, and it was like such a weird premise, but it was like this girl was her mom was a like rock star, so they were always on the road, and she was really into paranormal stuff, and so she had like a little blog that she would like post about like all this paranormal stuff they saw on the road together. So they'd like find banshees and ghosts and goblins, and it was like who was in it? Oh, Eric Van Stanton, is that one, the one from Brink and stuff? Like he was like a big like Disney Channel star. But it was, I like loved it so much because that was like the dream. I was like, oh, I just want to like investigate paranormal stuff.
This will be my living when I grow up. This is what I will do.
Yeah, I wanted to find the Loch Ness monster. That was like my big like career goal, and things have not turned out that way so far. But who knows?
Well, as
Never
a
too
special
late.
guest surprise, please welcome the Loch Ness monster. Can you imagine? Could you imagine?
The research that would have been involved in surprising me that way too is like impeccable. Yeah.
That's actually why I was in New York. I was just gathering intel, just sitting there.
There you go.
Like going, I've gone all the way to New York, and I've got to go all the way back to bloody Scotland, which was just up the road. God, the inconvenience of it all.
You're like, actually, we couldn't find Nessie, but we found Champ, the one that's supposedly in one of the lakes here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, great.
I've just found a giraffe and put a wig on it, so that'll do. Yeah.
The giraffe with a wig on. Ryan, are you wearing a Freddy Krueger jumper? I've just realised what you're wearing.
Oh, is it Freddy? Oh, this is just what I wear every day. This is just.
Mate, I just assumed the hat was because you've been in America. I completely didn't even put two and two together, which is terrible.
I do actually.
I thought you were trying to go for that, like, what's he called, Doofy from Scream.
Oh, for the doofy. No, I did not go for doofy. Which, by the way, is horrendously insulting because I actually just look good in hats. And you said that the only reason I would wear a hat, even though, sorry, I wear a hat. In fact, I have my record is wearing, I think, about 13 different hats in one episode of an old show we used to do.
Wow.
I am known for wearing hats because I don't know if you know this, but I am follically challenged above. So hats.
So hats are your friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've got my Blockbuster one, my Pizza Hut one. They're my usual go-to. And I thought, no, I've got the Freddy Krueger one here. But apparently, I'm not going to wear it ever again because apparently I look like Officer Doofy. So
you can see why we don't have guests very often, Tara.
Because of Ash's insensitivity. That's why.
Well, speaking of Blockbuster, do you remember I used to love on a Saturday night going with my dad to the video store and going to that section that was like $175 for 7 nights or something mental in like Choices videos, and just stand there for hours looking at films I should not be looking at, 100%. But my dad would like, yeah. But my dad would be like, do you want that one, dear? Like, oh, yeah. He's like, no idea. He just sees Chucky's face in the front and goes, oh, it's a doll. It's clearly a kid's movie. No, it's not. It finds me at like
Halloween.
3 in the morning hiding.
Yeah. Halloween, that's a fun time for kids. I'm sure that's fine.
No, to be fair, my dad was pretty cool when I was growing up. He didn't really care about because back then, we were saying this one way on another show, back then, certificates weren't really an issue because of the home video boom. It really, parents didn't really care that much. As long as you were quiet in front of the television, you were fine.
Plus, you always had a mate who had recorded it off the TV somewhere, and you would just borrow it off your mate, even if you weren't old enough to watch it. Like it'd be like someone. There was always one kid like in school who had like a dual VHS thing where you could put like a normal VHS and a blank one and like copy the tape.
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, I mean, one like, damn, they loaded, but also you were like, awesome, I get free tapes. So, but you'd be like really dodgy like transfer. But I think that's how I first saw Alien, was on like a really dodgy like transfer from like cassette to cassette, which actually somehow made it creepier. Just watching like a giant horrible alien face pop out through like slightly grainy image.
I was so sheltered. I'm so jealous. My parents did not let me watch a lot of stuff until I was and mostly until they got divorced, and then they were like, yeah, whatever. I need to be the favorite, so you can watch whatever you want.
Bribed with many horror films.
Of course, yeah. Watching American Psycho with my dad at 13, just the two of us. Real fun time. Yeah.
But you learned a lot about business cards and which ones are the best. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do well on Wall Street.
It's all about the business cards.
Yeah.
See, over in the UK, I was lucky enough to have satellite when I was a kid. But in England, it would start off as Cartoon Network, and then you'd get your final episode of Tom and Jerry at 9 o'clock at night, and then randomly it would switch to TNT. So then you'd get all these really inappropriate movies. So I used to sit there like 9 o'clock. My dad would go out and grab a takeaway, and we'd literally sit and then be like, we'd find episode of Tom and Jerry, and then he'd go on his computer in the other room and just leave me in the chair, and I'd be sat watching like Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason and all sorts of movies. But that's kind of how I grew up on them. That was where I grew up on all my horror films.
Oh, that's cool. I wish I was like, I also was scared of a lot of things as a kid. So like I have an October birthday, and so I loved like spooky stuff, but I feel like I was in like that gateway horror mode for like a really long time until I finally was like, okay, I think I can handle like actual horror movies when I was like in high school.
Do you remember what your first like proper horror film was?
Oh, well, I remember my friend bought me House of a Thousand Corpses for my birthday on DVD. And I remember just staring at being like, oh my God, am I like allowed to watch this? I was so scared.
Oh, that's a jump.
Oh yeah, that was a lot.
So weird. House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's
no
like,
in between.
yeah. God,
yeah, I remember.
That's dramatic.
That film
very.
was tense. I remember because I remember watching that for the first time because it was my girlfriend at the time was like, "Do you want to come to my house and watch House of a Thousand Corpses?" Like that should have been a red flag right there. Run away from that lady. She's scary.
Yeah, the Rob Zombie girls. Who?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm so watching this film going, I think I'm going to die in this house.
To be fair, there is a whole song about red flags, and it's called by a guy called Tom Cardy, like a comedy thing. And his whole thing is this: he goes on a date with a girl, and the red flag is that when he asks what her favorite movie is, it's Human Centipede. But you got to look up the song because it's absolutely hilarious. But there is a bit where it's just like, I think that's a red flag. I don't want to get stabbed. Like it's just, but it's really accurate. But you know, you just kind of go, yeah, because then when you would say that's their favorite film, you would sort of judge slightly. Like if like someone said Hostel was their favorite film, you'd kind of go, if you've got a basement, we're not going to be friends. Like,
no.
So I think it's because we're from that era of horror movies where the violence was implied rather than seen, whereas later on it just became literal torture movies. As time went on, like your Saw films, your Hostel movies, they all just became gore fests. Really, when you think about it. Like Terrifier now. You look, even I'm watching that and going, oh my God, this is intense.
I think that's why I thought I didn't like horror, because like when I was like in high school and stuff, it was the 2000s, and so it was a lot of this like weird like, you know, like the torture porn stuff, but like, you know, so like I saw Saw and I was like, oh, I can't watch these movies ever again, and now I like just watched them finally, like all of them together, and I was like, oh, these are actually a lot of fun.
The Saw films are good. They're just a heartwarming tale about a guy trying to educate people on morality, and like that's, you know,
yeah,
it's basically like religion. You know, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just one has a bigger budget, and the other one's Saw. But the Hostel ones, I couldn't get on board with Hostel. I think I don't mind, like, because the Saw films, they joke aside, have like a storyline. There's a reason for the gore, if that makes sense. Whereas Hostel, I just didn't like it because it felt like it for the sake of it, and it felt like it was pushing it too much to make. And there's difference between, you got like Hereditary and that I can't remember the director's name, but he does very specific kind of things. Hereditary,
Ari
Midsummer, yeah, exactly. And he has a very particular style which makes you feel unsettled. So even though some of it can be a bit graphic, it's about how much it lingers and it's unsettling. Whereas Hostel, I found, was just it almost just seemed they'd been doing the special effects and they were like, we need to build a film around this, rather than we've got a film and then let's build special effects for it. So I think that's always a key difference.
Yeah, I always love like a good amount of like tension building in a movie, because like that just like really unsettles me. I'm like, what are we doing? I don't know what's gonna happen.
Midsummer was so weird. I literally didn't talk for about 40 minutes after coming out of the cinema. Me and my other half, we walked home in silence.
That seems right. Yeah.
And we came out and it was like bright sunshine as well. And all I could hear was like the creepy music in my head going like, I was like, okay.
You just see like a maypole in the background. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. And then suddenly, next thing I know, I'm in like, oh my God, I've totally lost the film in my head. What's the one that's inspired by? Wicker Man. Wicker Man, yeah. I was about to say not the bees. That's the very interesting remake one. The funny thing is, they both got good lines you can shout from them. The original one's got, oh, Jesus Christ, no, Jesus Christ. And then the other one's got, not the bees, not the bees. They're both very good shoutable quotes.
That's true.
Oh dear.
That should be a segment on the documentary. Shoutable horror quotes.
Oh, that would be great. Actually, I would love that one.
Right, heading back to the States to start my new job on an insert. But the joking aside, we should actually talk a bit about the documentary because I've followed In Search of since In Search the Last Action Hero. I've managed to back them all. I've got them all. First person shooter one. Looking forward to that one.
Oh, cool.
The only one I missed was In Search of Darkness Part 3, because it was literally as I was changing jobs that the thing came in. So I'm still hunting for that one on Blu-ray. That's I like having. I'm a physical media guy.
Same.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to In Search of Darkness. I mean, I think the thing I found most interesting is that it did In Search of Darkness as almost like a one thing, and its popularity obviously is just huge, and the fact it's so in depth, and obviously now it's available as well on Shudder. The following is massive. The amount of guests you get on there is insane, and it's but it's not just the people that it's not just the actors. It's everyone, and I think that's the thing. Is horror is such a team built thing. You can't, if you have a terrible special effects department, you don't have a horror film. If you have terrible actors, you don't have a horror film. If you don't have a good score, you don't have a horror film. It's so important in horror to have effectively a Lego set with very solid instructions and all the right pieces, and it makes it something incredible.
Yeah, and I think as horror fans, you end up appreciating the work that people do behind the scenes a lot more. It isn't just about the director. You're the music is so important, the special effects, the actors, the writing. There's so much that goes into it that you can really appreciate and really point out well, that's the thing that really scared me in that movie.
It's the unsettlingness, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah,
I think it's cool seeing some of those talking heads as well, talking about seeing other people in the industry who have made things, talking about other people's creations.
Yeah,
because you always sort of wonder what other people, because I don't have a lot of even just on a YouTube context, for example, I don't really have a lot of content. Ash has loads, and I was actually watched Ash's stuff before we even started doing stuff. So when we first started doing stuff together, it was really weird, but it was really cool to be able to talk to someone who had made that content that you enjoyed, and it was really nice and refreshing to have that sort of thing. And that's kind of about this In Search of Darkness, is that it's not just people talking about their own creations, it's everyone talking about each other's.
Yep.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, and I think people can help recontextualize movies too, or make you appreciate them in a way that you never have before. Phil Nobile from Fangoria has a really great part where he talks about Basket Case, and I like Basket Case, but it's not my favorite. And then he talks about just the way that portrays New York and how it ushers in that was one of the last movies where you see the specific kind of New York before you go into the next the later 80s movies. And I was oh, that's a thing I never thought about before, and is really interesting to think about. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm just now thinking about, because I've got Basket Case, I've got the trilogy by accident, and now I think I'm gonna have to rewatch them now. That's because that's quite an interesting thought. Oh, there we go. Andy H in the comments. Basket Case was... Sorry, everyone in the comments. We have been totally just going off on tangents talking. Sorry. Andy said, Basket Case was just odd and then progressively got even odder.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no way to sum
Can't
that
argue
up.
with that.
Yeah. Add to that. Confirmed.
I think I saw that at a 24-hour horror movie marathon for the first time. And so it also lives in my brain kind of like a nightmare where I'm what am I watching? I am so sleep deprived.
I love that. Then again, I had sleep deprived the thing of watching again, not horror, but definitely horror gateway, Alice Return to Oz.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
You know which one I mean, Ash? We've talked about
the Pumpkinhead
the
Man and all that is the weird one. Oh, the Wheelies, not the Wheelies. They were weird. No, that film is just one big fever dream. That would always be... Thing is, I spent a lot of time in hospital as a kid. That was always the movie someone would drag out. They'd be like, oh, we need to find an appropriate movie for a child to watch it. Oh, Return to Oz. Oh, no. Just
you they Wizard of Oz. Why not?
just coming around from anesthetic watching that is whoa.
Am I still under?
So that's what it feels like. I'm really high right now.
You're is this the underworld? Did I die?
But I did find a lot of those films really terrifying, actually, more so than some of the horror films. So Dark Crystal, there's so many things in Dark Crystal that terrify me. The bit when one of the Skeksis gets basically demoted and they almost rip all of his clothes and skin and everything off.
Yeah.
that genuinely stayed with me for years, and The Witches as well with Angela Houston. Like the transformation scene in that was just oh, even now I'm sorry, I'm getting like distracted because I'm back in it. I'm like a kid in front of the TV again, going, "Oh God!" Like,
I mean, there was just so much good media that was like kind of creepy and weird, even if it wasn't horror necessarily. And so it was like even like watching like old kid shows where I'm like, oh, like they just let us watch this. This is dark.
Yeah, even like there was a stop motion model, like Thomas the Tank Engine had one, which was called Ghosts.
Yeah.
All right, and then there was an episode of Tugs, which was a very unknown spin-off of Thomas the Tank Engine, which was all about tugboats. And there was this particular episode with like these ghost tug things, but the music in it, and you know, when like we talk about rewatching it now, and you go, "Oh, it's not that good." I rewatched it. I was like, "No, this is still terrifying. This music." Like, I'm gonna send it to like later because like it's yeah, it's unnerving, and actually, that's probably good music to chuck in for a DVD menu. Just gonna throw that out there.
There are episodes of Rugrats that if I think about a little too much, I'm still just like, oh, that is horrifying. I can't believe that was in a kid's show. Like there was yeah, like the Dust Bunnies, like, and there's they're disgusting looking.
Heffalumps and Woozles, like at Winnie the Pooh, like a weird fever trip of like creepiness, crud under the bed. God.
They were trying to mess us up, and it worked.
Yeah, I was just thinking, yeah, good look. Here we are now.
Yeah, not well adjusted at all.
Nope, I'm fine in this jumper.
I had friends that were genuinely terrified of Hocus Pocus when that came out. I mean, we were only young when it came out, but I remember I had genuine friends that were like, "No, I don't like it. Turn it off." That bit at the beginning with, you know, like when they're all like old haggy witches. Yeah. That was like, yeah, I remember my friends literally running away from that, thinking, "No, am I watching that?" I was like, what? I was always fine with that film, but I know a lot of people weren't. It's very weird. It's very subjective.
I didn't see it as a kid. Which is
I know you're not. You didn't grow with Hocus Pocus. It upsets me. How did you not grow with Hocus Pocus?
I know.
I'm not a Bette Midler fan. I'm not a Bette Midler fan.
Get out, my boy.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bi.
And that's the last time we heard of Ryan.
He does this. I don't like him having the control. This is not cool. How do you think I feel? I'm a bisexual who doesn't like Bette Midler. I'm like shunned by my own community.
Yeah.
I don't like Bette Midler.
Actually, sorry, you're straight, sir. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, just go over there and watch Rambo 6 times in a row and piss off. You know, like it. So there you go. Willy Wonka. That's a good one in the comments. Willy Wonka.
Yeah. The boat so creepy.
What was that scene even about? You look back and you go, that has no recollection to the movie. Just like a snake crawl across someone's lip for no reason. Like, what is that about? Freaky weirdos.
Can you imagine if it was just a case like someone just completely got the wrong memo, started filming a horror film, like, you know, this is a kid's film. Like, I've spent loads of money on it now, and I'm really happy with it. Can we not put it in somewhere? Yeah, just all right, chuck it on the boat scene. We'll just get him to sing over the top of it. All right.
I imagine MGM just went into the vault and just found some weird stuff. Just like, yeah, we didn't use that in the film. We didn't use that in the film. We just shove them in this one.
Well, that was from the House of 1,000 Corpses. We'll use a bit of that.
But Tori, I understand that you just watched Dracula for the first time, the 90s version. After, because I was talking to you about it on email. That's one of my favorite 90s films of all time. Like, so is Frankenstein and Wolf. That anything to do with Universal Monsters, I'm there.
That's true.
The Dracula movie, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun to like I was like, oh yeah, I've seen a ton of 90s horror, and now I'm realizing how much I still like really need to get under my belt, and that's always been one of them. And like my mom loves The Godfather, so I like grew up with that. So it was always like, and I think she was kind of just like, yeah, like we love this movie, but then he did this other one, and that's just like, that's not it. Like we're not watching this. But like everyone talks about how like bonkers it is, and I was like, well, I gotta watch this, and like still not prepared for how like horny and batshit it actually was. Like the whole movie, like everyone is like horned up and like maybe on like taking what's the green drink stuff that they take in the movie? Can't remember it. That makes them hallucinate. Totally blank. Absinthe. Yeah. I'm like, did they just like, were they all on absinthe for like the entire making of this film? Probably, yeah. It would make a lot of sense, honestly.
But one of the reasons that I love that film to death is because of it's the cast. I'm sorry, but that is a powerhouse cast. Now, At the time, it wasn't. At the time, they were all just, sort of mediocre actors. But now you look back and you go, oh my God, that cast list is just chocked.
Hopkins is so unhinged in the whole time I was like, what is he doing? Like, a woman just died and he's just like, hey, I know you're mourning, but we got to cut her head off. I was like, bro.
I love the fact that he kills her and then he sits down and eats a roast dinner, like, you're just chopping it up, like, hey, eat some more meat.
Yeah, like total psychopath.
Sometimes you just got to get on with it,
Yeah.
It is what it is. Another Monday.
Yeah, time to move on.
Yeah.
Because
She's always been our hearts and stuff.
Because that
whatever her name is.
Yeah. That movie for me as a kid, like, 'cause I saw this as a kid, and like it was like Winona Ryder, so obviously Beetlejuice, Keanu Reeves, Bill and Ted. So like I grew up with all these actors, thinking, oh, it'll be fine. It's got these people in it. And then of course it had Carrie Yules in it, and Richard E. Grant, obviously is well known in the UK. So we had all these names in it, and then you watch it, go, that is the weirdest movie I've ever watched. Like the scene with Keanu Reeves where all the women come out of the bed, like what? What is going on?
And I'm so English. It's actually unbearable.
The way he says Budapest made me so mad, and he says it like 3 times. I was like, why did you let him do this? Is this why he's like not in like half of the movie after a while?
My favorite quotable line from the whole film is Keanu Reeves going, chasing wolves through blue blood inferno. Just the most random, like, non-English phrase you've ever said. Like, the way he says it is just brilliant.
Oh, it's so
See,
good.
horror quotes you can shout.
Exactly.
Another entry into this expanding category.
It's all I'm going to think about now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to get a chapter. I will get a chapter on this. This is going to happen. At least bonus features.
At least.
It's the visuals of that film though that always strike me, because I've said it to Ash before. Like, it's like every scene is like a painting. Like when they used to just sort of superimpose things to paint. So when they're not really moving much, you kind of almost forget that it's a film, and then something happens in it. You're like, oh my God, it is actually insane how beautiful. Because I got to see it on the big screen. They did an anniversary showing of it a little while ago. And it was amazing how well it held up, and just actually how breathtaking it was seeing it in like proper cinema size, and especially with the sound design, it was just phenomenal.
You know why it holds up, don't you? You know why this holds up? Because it was real effects. It wasn't CGI.
That's
true. It was monsters on screen. He was actually in that suit. So I mean, like, all the monsters in it, they're all genuine. They're all on camera. They're not CGI. That's why I love the Lost Boys. That's why I love the film Wolf and the Frankenstein. They were all physical effects in the 90s. That's what I love the most.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say that something like, for example, the cinematic masterpiece that is Lawnmower Man doesn't hold up? Are you trying to tell me that doesn't hold up? Because, like, have you ever been in virtual reality? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Haunting. Yeah. Just like beautiful.
Yeah, so good.
In that Dracula film, they use that same clip every time they want to talk about like the big like Warner Brothers 100th anniversary or whatever it will be. They always use that scene from that film of Sadie Frost walking down the stairs holding the kid in the white gown. That is always the scene they use from that film. It's so iconic, and I think people see that and go, "What is that movie?" It's like, "That's Dracula. You need to see it. It's an amazing movie."
Yep. It's true. I can't wait to rewatch it. It was such a delightful experience.
But you've seen, obviously, I know one of the other people that kind of like put forward stuff. Someone said Wolf, and someone's I think mentioned Frankenstein as well. If you haven't seen them, the 90s versions of those, you need to watch them.
Yeah,
I gotta get on that.
Yeah, the 90s Universal Monsters movies were great.
It's cool that was a thing. Like they were like, yeah, we're doing Universal Monsters 90s style. Like, all right.
I think we're due another round of Universal Monsters.
It's interesting because
we need a creature movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. We need some more creature features. Because like even like towards the end of the 90s, obviously when The Mummy came in, they changed the tone of the Universal monster films from from the early 90s. We were talking the other week, and we're really gutted we didn't get more of like the Mummy universe. Like, to see like Brendan Fraser, like, I don't know, fight Frankenstein's monster or the Wolfman or like the Invisible Man or the Phantom creature Black Lagoon. Like, just would have been really cool. Because they had such a cinematic style to it. And again, it was like action horror. Because some of those things are like truly like scary in it still.
Imagine if because the character of Jonathan in The Mummy, he could have been stupid enough to like become the Invisible Man or something. They could have done that as a spin-off and kept all the cast in it, because he would have been amazing as the Invisible Man. And just let it and like see it corrupt him kind of thing. So he finally gets to get the money he wants and all that kind of stuff. and let it. And that would have been a cool story. And then, like we said on this last show, have him chasing down Dracula or something across Europe would have been a great movie with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and stuff like. It would have been an amazing movie.
And talking about like bisexual awakening, I mean that cast, like, whew, gorgeous.
Yeah, that was just multiple minutes of lots of confusion as a young person.
For sure.
That was a lot of like, oh, you can butter your bread both sides. Look at that. These are all the revelations. You've missed out, Ash. It's been an interesting ride. Also, I think with 90s, obviously, we saw the entry of Scream, which if you're thinking 90s horror, I think there is few as iconic as Scream.
Yeah, and it's what I really like is the way that the doc is going to be split up. So we're doing 90 to 94, and then so we're not even like touching Scream in that first one, and then we get to like get into it in the second. But like I think it lets you appreciate so much of just like the weirder niche stuff in the early 90s that exists, because there is just so many like crazy things. Like I just watched Death by Temptation recently, which like might be one of my favorite movies now. I'm obsessed with it.
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
It's really good and like really funny, like practical effects. There's like a weird X-Files subplot, like mid-movie, like so much fun. But then yeah, like when you think at least when I think 90s horror, like I feel like Scream is the thing that always pops into my head. So I'm glad that we get to do like a whole part that talks about horror before that was even a thing.
So is it going to be a 3-part In Search of Darkness 90s or a 2-part?
This will be a 2-parter. Which I think it'll be interesting. I think maybe it like makes sense to like not stretch out the 90s as much, because there is some stuff like I don't know. There's like something a little bit more cohesive about the 80s in my head. Where like 90s, it feels like we're doing so much different stuff. Like we have CGI coming into like effect. We have erotic thrillers that are like, you know, because we can't call it horror. We got to relabel it because it's classier than horror. There's, you know, we have like a lot of like new entries into like 80s franchises, directors trying to like continue on their career in the 90s. Like there's just an insane amount of stuff that is going on.
I think the other thing is what we were talking about the other week is trying to work out what some of those films like that were technically made in the 80s but released in the 90s, and there's that weird crossover in like their style.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Frighteners, the one we were convinced that was 80s and it's actually
definitely 90s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when you look at it, you kind of go like, you can see why you would think it was an 80s film, but it's technically a 90s film. And it again is like one of those first things of like comedic horror and practical effects, which, and let's be honest, it's Michael J. Fox, and we'll always watch Michael J. Fox.
I know. And Dee Wallace too, like another like amazing horror babe. Yeah.
The 90s as well. I like the fact that it was the birth of the new age of monsters, like the new lineup of horror icons. Because in the 90s, in the beginning, we started to see the likes of like Freddy, Jason, Michael, all getting the worst films within their franchise. Should we say the latter end movies that no one really talks about too much. But then we started seeing the birth of like Candyman and Chucky and Scream. And we started seeing all these new faces pop up, and they became the new face of horror, really.
Yeah, and like Candyman, oh my god, like one of the most romantic slashers ever.
Do you know what? That is weird, but I do actually get what you mean.
Yeah, there's something like he comes on screen and like as soon as he's like "Be my victim," I'm like, yeah, like duh. Just that voice and that like screen presence, he's so good.
Todd has that though. I think like Tony Todd just has a presence. I mean, to be fair, I think you must have a natural amount of like presence when you agree to have live bees on your face for like, wasn't it like $1,000? I think it was.
Yeah.
Like he agreed to do it, and like, but I mean, you've got to have some like pretty big cojones to go like, yeah, I'll let bees just be all over my face for a good portion of this film. Don't worry about it.
Like, I got this, no problem.
Yeah.
And then he stars. And then he stars in the Night of the Living Dead remake that Savini does, and he's I think also really great in that role. Like, what an iconic
underrated
man.
Remake. Underrated remake.
I agree.
I thought you were going to chime in then, Ash. I was going to thought you were going to be like,
sorry. No, I was flicking through my notes on my screen. I said because next up for me would have been like Interview with the Vampire. That came out for me. I'm a big vampire guy. Interview with the Vampire came out in 1994. Because that'll be towards the tail end of your kind of journey through the 90s.
Yeah.
But that again, there's so many different things in the horror. Like that isn't even really a horror, is it? But it's a gothic romance. Do we call that? Yeah, romance.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of that like cross genre stuff going on at the time, which I really love. Like there's there's like Office Killer, which is a really weird like niche one that's like part slasher, part like, you know, art house movie, but it stars people like Molly Ringwald and Carol Kane and is like really batshit. And then like Boxing Helena, which is I think by David Lynch's daughter, Jennifer Chamber Lynch, and that has like Julian Sands in it and Sherilyn Fenn, and just is about a guy that wants to like box this hot lady that he has a crush on. Like there's just so much good, weird, like erotic, romantic kind of things happening in the 90s.
And then we even had like the birth of the sort of superhero movies that were more or less straight up horror movies, like Spawn and Blade and Crow. They were the three that I remember vividly in the 90s. I remember renting those on VHS. And I mean, like, if you look back, that was like, can you imagine releasing a superhero movie like that now? They would never get it past the censors with it being a comic book movie. But like the Spawn movie, especially, that was so dark.
Yep. And The Crow, I was like obsessed with. I watched that all the time. My dad really liked it for some reason. So we used to watch it together a lot. And like, it's still just like, it hits, like, it's when I want that like perfect, like nostalgia hit, like I put on The Crow and I'm like, ooh, yeah. All that soundtrack too. It's like The Cure and Nine Inch Nails. It's perfect.
Yeah, and do you know what soundtrack used to? I think that's what they started using, like more like actual tracks rather than just like instrumental scores for some films as well. And you do start getting that sort of association with some songs. I mean, like let's not forget Lost Boys. There was one particular song. I don't know if you've noticed. It's barely noticeable in the film, but they play it very subtly in the background.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
No, it's not in your head for like eternity afterwards.
No.
But if we're going to talk like early 90s horror, though, and you said about like obviously Dracula, Anthony Hopkins, like you're going to like this link. You see, this is where it's going about. Anthony Hopkins Unhinged, Silence of the Lambs.
God, yeah.
One of the most amazing, understated like performances, but yet stays with people. He's not even in the movie that much either, but yet it's such a long movie. But Hannibal Lecter's actually in it for a very small amount of time, and also not in a lot of different locations.
Yeah,
and yet he became instantly iconic because obviously we had I think it was Manhunter, which was I think maybe with Brian Cox, which was in the 80s, I believe. And then but obviously it's not really associated. This was like the first, because we had obviously sequels to this. But that was always, I found that like such an amazing performance even when I was younger, because I definitely watched that when I wasn't meant to watch it, because that's how I learned about cannibalism, as you know.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their first cannibalism memory. You know, it's just one of those things you treasure. It's part of growing up. My voice is broken.
I'm an adult.
Yeah. I was like, what's cannibalism? And then watched that. I was like, I see and understand now fully. But yeah, the fact he barely like his face barely moves, and it's the way he talks as well, the mannerisms. It's just, but it's the build up to him, like you were saying earlier about like the sort of when you build up attention to something. It's such a long walk past all those really over the top, exaggerated sort of mental patients. Yeah. And then there he is just standing, listening to classical music surrounded by artwork. It's so contrasting to everything else she's walked past. It's like she's been told she's basically going down a corridor of psychopaths, and here is someone that looks like the elite gentleman casually standing amongst them.
And terrifying. Is the worst of them all, probably.
By far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you can't not do that. You know, and if anyone ever has a nice Chianti. But
no, there's another quote from that film. You know which one I'm going to say? There's another quote from that film which is far better.
Go on, then. You got to shout it though.
It puts the lotion in the basket and puts it back in the basket. It puts the lotion on the skin and puts it in the basket.
That's true.
That's another quote you can shout from 90s horror films. The new section.
That is the most unhinged scene in the whole film. I hate that, but it's so creepy in it.
Yeah. That movie like still gets me. I've rewatched it so many times and it still is like so effectively like paced and creepy, and Hopkins is like really charismatic, but then when I watch it now I'm like, but he is legitimately terrifying. Like everything he does is the worst.
But you do want to keep watching him. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like
I've just realized as well, if we're talking 90s through 94, you're going to get to touch on one of mine and Ryan's favorite movies of all time, The Leprechaun, the film Jennifer Aniston hopes does not exist.
I need to see that because I still have not seen it. Yeah.
Oh, The Leprechaun's amazing.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, it will change your life, and then you need to watch the next 8 as well because he ends up in space before.
Yeah, like I love a good space entry into a franchise. So
Jason X.
I mean, the best of the Jason movies, like the.
Do you know, this is one of those direct-to-video ones, but after Jason X came out, and because it was popular on home video, the Miramax actually made Dracula 3000.
Oh yeah,
there is a god awful Dracula in space movie as well. It is terrible. It is literally remove Jason, add Dracula, same movie.
Oh,
damn.
Now I need to watch
It's
that.
horrible.
Yep.
I'm a sucker for like space horrors. I don't know why. If you just excuse me, change like the context of things and just like put them in space, it could be anything. I mean, critters are from space, but the minute you put them back in space, I'm like, yeah, critters in space, or like just anything, like But I think that's why I love Event Horizon so much, because that's like Hellraiser in space.
It's true. And that one
Hellraiser come out.
That's 80s.
80s, yeah, it is Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I think one of the sequels was 90s, wasn't it?
I think maybe the third one is 90s. That sounds right.
Hell on Earth is 99 too.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's the one. There's one because at one point one of these Cenobites can shoot CDs out of his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got Bloodline in 1996 as well.
And one of them actually does go into like a Matrixy type thing. It's to do with like the key is actually online, if I remember correctly. Like the puzzle boxes.
Oh yeah.
And go through the system because got to hack the system.
I love that we're like we need to put all of this cool technology in, and now it's like 30 years later and it's all so outdated.
Leprechaun in space, chef's kiss. Yes, Leprechaun in space is just, I think it's just because like Warwick was just like having the time of his life on those films, and you can tell.
Yeah. Until they randomly replace him in one of the films.
I think he retired from the role, I think is the correct term. Mr. Sorrell. I think he retired from the role possibly in Leprechaun Origins, I believe. And then it wasn't really even. I mean, I know you care deeply about this, but so yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Origins that he was replaced.
Wow, you know all the Leprechaun facts.
Just a big old bag of Leprechaun facts. That's what because I spent ages trying to get Leprechaun back to the Hood because it was there's back to the. There's Leprechaun in the Hood, and then there's Back to the Hood. And what's great about it was really bugger to get on Region 2. And then actually our amazing audience member, Andy, who is weirdly able to source anything, like to the bit where you kind of feel like he has like a back, like get stuff off the back of a truck, maybe.
Ooh, that's a good person to know.
Oh, he just like we'll talk about things on the show, and next thing you know, we've both got links to things. He's like, you can get it here, you can do it. I'm like, oh. I once mentioned I was in this really rubbish horror film, which was like non-existent. It was like unfindable. He found not only did he find a copy, he bought it, found the copy, digitized it, and sent it over to these guys to add terrible clips. It's like I thought I'd buried
it.
It is.
Ryan thought that film was buried and dead, and now we've got copies of it to play forever.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with like wanting to collect stuff too. I mean, like there's still so much media that isn't available on like streaming and stuff. And so I just have like an external hard drive where I just like squirrel away stuff I can't find elsewhere because I'm like, this is important. Like I need this.
It's history.
It is, exactly.
I can't not have an entire franchise either because obviously like with 90s, like you said about the new entry stuff, there's been some interesting entries into like existing franchises in the 90s. But I can't not have the entire, even if like 3 out of 8 of them suck, I need to have the whole things in order. I can't not. Like Children of the Corn. That's a,
oh no, there's so many.
so many. Puppet Master. There's like, do you know how many Puppet Master films there are?
No.
9. But 9, isn't there?
No,
Is there more than 9?
Mate, we're in the teens.
Oh Jesus.
Ooh.
We're in the teenage dirtbag territory now. Like we are living the dream, and some of them are good, some of them are not. One of them's a crossover with another small franchise.
Okay.
From Full Moon Studio, but a couple of them are just free to watch on YouTube at the moment as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, great.
Which is nice.
Someday I'll go down that road, probably.
Oh, God, I see. This is what I'm trying. This is the deep cuts we keep talking about. I like try and get people to watch the stuff that literally no one wants to watch. Just supporting.
I'm all about that, like, made for TV, like straight to video. Like, give me that like weird stuff that they didn't want to put in theaters.
Oh, well, if you're looking for that, then you need to watch the British comedy I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle. If you've never seen that, please look it up. It's amazing.
Sounds incredible.
It's just a stupid little British horror film that never went anywhere, and it was only, I think it only got a very small release. But it was put this way, it's still distributed by Hobo Film Releases. So I've never heard of them in my life. But it stars Anthony Daniels in it. It's got Anthony Daniels in it, so you need to check it out. And Neil Morrissey as well. Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Film.
It's all right. Andy will hook you up in the comments.
That's Andy in the comments. He'll be on it in a minute. He'll find us a link in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, if Andy wants to be my friend too, I mean,
yeah, he'll find it. Oh, look, there you go. 16 at the last count for a Puppet Master. Andy even had the number.
God. But the 90s actually also gave us the birth of Buffy the Vampire Slayer that not many people know about that movie, and it annoys me. Because everyone else
it's so
remembers.
Fun.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah,
and again,
you got Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, I say it's one of those films that, again, it's the cast. It was a small cast at the time, but nowadays that cast is amazing. I won't say Sarah Michelle Gellar. Jesus Christ, no. Elizabeth Swanson.
Shame.
Yeah,
Shame.
Sorry. But yeah, it's 1992, so it's going to be. Oh, it should be in the first part of your documentary. I would have hoped. There's Paul Rubens as well as in that. Oh my God,
yeah,
Paul Rubens.
That's true.
Donald Sutherland, Kirsten Swanson, Luke Perry. So many names in that movie.
Yeah, it's
David
so
Arquette as well.
I haven't actually seen it. Confession.
It's really fun.
I didn't know it was a movie. Again, I saw the TV show first, and then people went to the movie, and then they showed me a cover of the movie. I was like, "That's not Buffy." All right, I've seen Buffy. I know who Buffy is. All right, that's not.
Yeah, some knockoff Buffy.
Yeah, coming in here pretending she can be like the Vampire Slayer. All right, come on.
Yeah, right.
No, Phoebe Buffet like the Buffet Leia, maybe, but okay. But,
the thing is, the Joss Whedon Buffy made her out to be like the outcast Buffy. The kind of she's not in with the popular crowd. Whereas in that film, she literally is one of the cheerleaders, one of the popular girls in school.
Yep.
Like you're dating the linebacker and all that kind of stuff. So it was complete 180 to the series. Completely different kind of film. But Paul Rubens plays such an amazing role in that.
It's true.
You don't realize it's him till about halfway through the film. He's such a good actor.
Oh, he has that really funny death scene that's just like goes on forever.
And it goes on after it had a post-credit scene as well. It has a post-credit scene where he's still going at the end of the film. He's still going.
Amazing.
He's still making noises.
Okay, now I need to watch this definitely.
Yeah, you do. It's great.
Well, Paul Rubens though had like that weird sort of because obviously we know mostly as Pee Wee Herman, but he had so many good little bits of like gothic horror elements too. Because I mean, Batman Returns obviously came out in 1992. Danny DeVito's Penguin and Paul Rubens' performance in it, all of them. It's so gothic, and again, it's like Gateway. It's one of those films. I think it had such a dark tone to it, and it was scary in a lot of parts of it. Danny DeVito, when he first comes out in the Penguin makeup, is genuinely like makes you go like like sort of it's scary, and it's obviously Tim Burton has always had that kind of gothic horror edge to anything he touches.
Yeah,
and I think that really comes out in that.
I feel like gothic 90s is a thing we need to talk about.
Yeah, 100%. You know my feelings on Batman Returns, Ryan.
I mean, I feel like we haven't talked about that specifically, but I am realizing there is like, which also feels so funny to me that like the 90s was the time where we're trying to do like gothic stuff, but I also kind of love it.
sitting on your inflatable like bubble chair, going like, yeah, we need to do like giant like Batman animated series and gargoyles and things like that were coming out, going like, yeah, we need to make this gothic as heck.
Well, yeah, because you've also got Edward Scissorhands, 1990, The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993, Addams Family, 1991. There was a massive like surge of like dark gothic, almost like kids movies as well, kind of a little bit. Most of them were kind of accessible. So I mean, yeah, there's that whole surge of movies that came out. And yeah, like The Crow, people saying in the comments, like The Crow as well. Yeah, that's gothic. I consider that a gothic movie. But yeah, there's so many good, darker sort of gothic movies. But one film I cannot wait to see you. Oh, and Sleepy Hollow. Sorry, my mind's just going mental. Sleepy Hollow, but that was 1999.
Yep.
But one film that I cannot wait to see you guys touch on, obviously it'll be in the second part though, but The Craft. Because I don't think, Ryan, have you still not seen The Craft? Oh, mate, see The Craft. Great movie.
I mean, you have to watch it when you're a teenage girl. Like, you really missed out.
Well, yeah, it's been a while since I've been a teenage girl, but you know,
yeah, I know. But that one is so fun. And another crazy cast.
Yeah, a lot of people say about that film, like, it does obviously appeal to, you know, young girls and teenage girls and stuff like that. I approached from a different view because I was the outcast gothic kid. So I always grew to those characters because of that. I was like one of them. I was like an outcast little gothic kid that wanted to play Wiccan stuff. So I love that movie so much growing up.
I mean, so many of us wanted to be witches in the 90s. Like, it just makes so much sense.
Some of us were, darling.
Yeah.
That's
You're like, I didn't have time to watch this. I was embodying it. I was living it.
It's always the same people going down like the local shops. We had a record shop called Slip Disc 2 in Chelmsford, and it was awesome. But all the T-shirts as well, because that was the other thing. Like horror merchandise was like quite lacking in like most shops in England, but except for in like little dingy record shops. That was the place you could get really good like horror merch, or like maybe like a comedic head knocker of like Freddy Krueger or something. But it was severely lacking considering how big the films were and how much people used to talk about them. There was actually not a lot of stuff you could have as someone who was a fan to show that you were a fan.
That's true. Yeah. And now I just have like so much junk.
Yeah. This is actually just like a big cut. I think it's meant to be a tablecloth. There's a bookcase behind it. I just hide the shame because it's just so much like stuff around.
Yeah, is that Hollow Knight? The little dude.
You know, I've got no idea.
No.
You just saw a curtain on Amazon and bought it, didn't you?
Yeah.
eBay. It was eBay.
eBay. Okay.
Well, because the thing is, we started doing horror, and all my backgrounds were Star Wars. Because I actually predominantly use bed sheets as my background. Right? Because
it makes sense. It's a good, yeah.
Yeah, because thematically, if I'm talking about Transformers and I need something with a big Transformers pattern on it, what has a repetitive pattern and is large and easy to hang up somewhere? Bed sheets or curtains. So most of my backgrounds, actually, and one of them's a rug. True story.
There you go. You're all set. And you're like, of course I have Transformers bed sheets, obviously.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, I film in our spare room, and this is how much my mum's amazing. So when they moved house recently out of the childhood home, my mum just gives me this giant bag. She goes, "Oh, I kept these in the airing cupboard just in case you ever needed them." I was like, "What is in this?" And it was all my childhood Star Wars bed sheets.
Hell yeah!
So our spare room in our adult flat is just like my childhood Star Wars. Way to go, Mom! Like, yeah, my wife just looks at me and is like, spare room. That doesn't count in the spare room. It doesn't matter.
It's true. That's what it's for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The nerdatorium can have whatever it needs to be in it.
Yeah.
Andy hates the rug. That was your chest hair. Oh, Andy, no.
Andy, no.
Andy, no.
Andy,
no.
I don't need that in my head, Andy.
Yeah, boo, Andy, boo. So, what would be your Tori? If you had to pick your favorite horror film that's featured in this documentary.
Ooh.
So in your time zone, or I won't say your absolute favorite because I always think that's a bit of an on-the-spot question.
Okay.
What are 3 of your favorites?
Okay. I'm looking at my letterbox and I have to go by rating. So I'm gonna quickly let's see. Well, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me definitely has to be up there. I love that movie, and I think like David Lynch is like an underrated like horror mind. I think there's always something really horrific in Lynch's work. Candyman, I mean, like, yeah, like Tony Todd, like enough said, of course. It's really hard. I want to pick like another weird one, but that I also love a lot. Ravenous.
Ravenous.
Speaking
I've
of
not heard
cannibals,
Ravenous.
oh man, you need to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got Guy Pearce, David Arquette, there's like a lot of weird people in this. Like some people too that like I think you'll Robert Carlyle.
Oh yeah, love Robert Carlyle.
Yeah. Yep. It's about like, you know,
cast list. Jesus.
Yeah, it's like the Wendigo myth and cannibalism and a little bit of like queer themes as well. Just pepper that in there. It's very
I'm
good.
sold.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. Also,
woman director also.
Hmm?
Woman director also, which is very cool.
Always nice.
Yep, always nice.
One thing I've got to ask about franchises, because we touched a bit about franchises, but yet we've not mentioned, and I kind of feel like it's the elephant in the room because of my attire. There are 2 Nightmare on Elm Street films that are going to be in this entry.
Yeah, 2 drastically different Nightmare on Elm Street films. Yeah.
I do have a preference out of the 2. I prefer Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yeah.
As much as like the Final Nightmare, terrible name, let's be honest. Whenever a film has the final in this title, I always know it's definitely not the final one.
No.
If anything, that tells me that it's going to carry on forever. If they say like the next chapter, I'm like, oh, that might be the last one. But you know, if it's got final in it, you're like, yeah, this is going to go on forever.
Yeah, wait a year. Okay.
Yeah. Begins again. It's like my favorite naming convention still. I know what you did last summer. I still know what you did last summer. I'll always know what you did last summer.
So good.
It's just such a great naming convention. It's just like, just keep adding to it. And I genuinely believe the only reason they stopped is because they were like, if we add any more to this title, no one's going to see this film.
They're looking at a whiteboard, just like, oh, there's no way we can make this work for a 4th movie.
I'll always have a faint idea of what you did in that general time period. Oh. That's like the vague spin-off. That's like, when they do those really budget rip-off versions, like was it like Asylum Films? That's their version.
I need to watch that now. I need that to happen.
I'll work on it. That could be my next project. There you go.
Great.
And Ash, you can play someone who gets their leg ripped off. That's every interview we have. Like we've been talking, especially with film people. It's normally me doing stupid voices and Ash holding up his leg, and going, "If you need a guy." It's all become our thing.
For context, if you need a guy, I've got a prostate.
Yeah. There you go.
Some assembly required.
Yeah. This is our pitch. It's basically bald and the leg man. Like that's what we sort of do,
You're just like, huh?
Yeah, let's randomly get into projects and appear in things. Hey.
Final Nightmare, was that the one where they realise that they can kill him with his own claw? Is that one? Where the end scene is just them impaling him with his own claw. She kills him with his own claw, didn't she, in the final scene?
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's so weird like that.
Or is that Dream Warriors?
No, Dream Warriors is my favourite one. I love the Dream Warriors. Then they play Dungeons and Dragons, and then Freddy takes over as the Dungeon Master. Amazing.
That is true. That's the problem. When there's a big franchise, you start getting confused. However, obviously, New Nightmare.
New Nightmare is amazing.
So different. And I absolutely love that concept of taking it and putting it into the real world. Because it's like the actors playing themselves in the film about themselves. No, wait, I'm not saying that right. No, I'm getting myself confused. It's the film of the people in the film that's in the film.
Yes.
Film.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Robert, it was the fact that he mentioned, didn't he, Robert Englund, that there was a scene that was completely cut out, which was him in it, like with Freddy coming for him, and that entire scene was cut out. Wes Craven just got rid of that entire scene, which is so weird because that would have been the original concept was Freddy got into our world through Robert Englund, but Wes Craven cut that at last minute because they didn't like it. They cut it out. but
Shame.
they just kept it the way it is now, like the kid who like how he came through. But yeah, I think that would have been better, like Freddie coming through Robert Englund, using him as like a gateway to our world. That would have been an amazing like way to bring Freddie in.
I love that idea.
That was one of my favorite sort of 90s horror films from that period, I think, because it felt different, because it was meta. And I didn't really have much familiarity with what meta was. Like that was probably my first introduction of almost like self-referentialism in like film, especially in a horror.
Yeah.
Because then, like you said, later we obviously had Scream, which was all about the rules of the film and stuff like that. But like, this was actually the actors from earlier films. It was a really sort of clever. And I remember, even when I was younger, like just thinking, like this is a really unusual take on something. And then I started thinking about, because then it's almost like borderline. You feel like it's like a horror version of the Truman Show in some ways, because like it becomes their life.
Yeah. And I like the idea of like a meta entry in a franchise, like as opposed to just like a whole meta franchise. Not that I don't love Scream, but like now we're getting to a point where I'm like, all right, like what else can we really do? But like, yeah, like let's just like get a random like meta like entry of like Jason or like Halloween, like whatever.
Exactly, like the copycat killer type aspects of it as well. I mean, that could work really well for something like Friday the 13th or for Halloween. Like, it's to do people who've watched the films. I mean, a really terrifying crossover would be like it turned out like the actor Michael Myers gets tired of everyone getting their names mixed up and then actually goes on a murdering spree as Michael Myers from Halloween. Now that, yeah, but it'd be like Michael Myers mask. It'd be like that mask, like the horrible Michael Myers mask, but like even Austin Powers like suit. Like,
can we have an Austin Powers dance scene with him wearing the mask?
Yeah.
He's just quoting his different characters as he kills you.
I'm an ogre who's gonna kill you.
Just donkey at some point randomly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Groovy stabbing, baby. If anyone's watching that, by the way, we are available to sell the rights to that. So just throwing out there.
I've told you the way they can save the Halloween franchise. I've told you, Ryan. Then I'll tell you what all they need to do is bring Sam into it. Have Sam versus Michael. That would be amazing.
Ooh, hell yeah! I'm into that idea.
Instead of Trick or Treat 2, just bring Sam into the Michael Myers like universe. That would be awesome.
Oh, he would be so cute trying to fight Big Michael.
Well, the idea was we have it that we can. Like me and Ryan kind of pitched this whole film, and the idea was that the Sam basically comes to Haddonfield and he's doing his usual, making sure people are following the rules, and he starts killing people that aren't following the rules, and people think Michael's returned, but it's actually Sam. And then he starts going after Laurie. But then Michael's like, get off my Laurie, and he comes to like protect Laurie. It's like a complete 180. Like it's Laurie and Michael working against Sam, so she's on the same side as him for once. No, that'd be awesome.
True story. There was actually, and it got quite far in the production, was meant to be Leprechaun versus Candyman.
That would have been amazing.
Whoa!
But Tony Todd basically said no because I respect my character too much to be using a cheat code. And I was just like, bravo, Tony Todd, but I'm also kind of gutted we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, like I do kind of want to see that, but also I understand why Tony Todd had no interest in doing that.
Yeah, that would be maybe good for like an internet short, maybe.
Yeah.
Rather than a whole movie. But obviously we haven't got massive amounts of time left. So tell us about In Search of Darkness 90s. Like, it's the last couple of days, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, midnight on Halloween is the last day to support the campaign. So if you want to, get the like beautiful physical release along with all of the cool perks, go to 90shorrordoc.com. You got a couple days left. I'm so excited. I think this is going to be like such an incredible documentary. And like a lot of it comes from the fact that we have like really amazing fans who tell us what they want to see and what they want to hear about. And so like a lot of the work that is done is because like we have such a great community that wants to like tell us all about the cool movies they're into. And like especially like the weird shit, like tell us about the weird niche shit that you're interested in for the 90s.
Flight of the Living Dead.
Awesome.
Yes, on the list.
I love it came up on the screen. It just says, "Now shut up, Ryan," like on the bottom of the Flight of the Living Dead. That was a film that came out. Next.
And moving on.
Yeah, there is a link in the description. If it does want to check it out, there is a link in the description where you can go and get straight to the website, and it takes you straight to the campaign. So please do check it out. Tori, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your time. Sorry that we've drove you probably crazy for the last 90 minutes, but we've had fun.
No, it was lovely. Thank
Rory
you.
never did an interview on YouTube with us ever again.
No. We get people on, we scare them away.
Yeah, we'll have to do our own documentary in search of guests that don't want to kill
In
us.
search of guests.
Well, soon we're all gonna have to work together to make this Mike Myers slasher movie happen.
Yeah.
So you know.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
A three-way split on the commission. Because let's be honest, it's gonna go. It's gonna be blockbuster. It's gonna go big.
Oh, it'll be incredible. You do not want to miss this
Featuring-
movie.
Yeah, featuring a cameo from Warwick Davis reprising his role from Leprechaun versus Chucky versus Candyman
Yeah.
versus Jason. There's gonna be a lot of verses, isn't it?
Oh dear.
Icon Deathmatch. That's what we should call it. Oh, that could be the name of it. Icon
Yeah.
Deathmatch.
Hell yeah.
We can tell you're running on like 2 hours of sleep and like lots of coffee, right? I can tell that this evening.
What's amazing, though, you do know that this is not actually massively far
I
from
know.
what I am.
It's
even
not far from what you
have.
have. Tonight you're a little bit more unhinged than usually. There's a slight element of that you could say anything tonight. There's this undertone of I could be swearing any moment.
No
Get the bleep
rules.
button.
I've been incredibly tame, thank you.
You
sir.
have.
I have. That not that I'm normally like a lunatic, by the way, in that context. Like I'm saying as if like it's no, I'm like swearing and shouting and like burning the set behind me. Down
Says
or
the guy
something,
in
but
the serial killer getup. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know, I've got no good retort for that. Yeah, fair play.
No. Goodbye.
Evil is as evil does. It's prime time. No, I'm joking. No, Andy, so I get angry about Ezra Miller, but that's the only thing Andy keeps
That's in the
begging me for.
comments.
Fair
In the
enough.
comments, Ezra
Yeah.
Miller.
Every time with the babe.
Oh, dear.
But no, the I would say to everyone who's watched about the interview and everything, having watched every single one of the documentaries, I do really recommend everyone go and check them out. And the thing is, if you haven't seen the others, they're actually on Shudder as well at the moment, so you can watch some of the previous entries, and they are just phenomenal. And the other thing is they're good because they're long, but they're good because you can put them into segments, and they're just really nice. Sort of when you don't know what to watch,
Yeah.
they're actually kind of just really comfort viewing because you can just revisit your favorite bits.
And one of the add-ons is you can get the first three like on Blu-ray. So like
Nice.
if you don't own it on physical media, you have the opportunity to get like a nice special edition one with like all 3 parts of 80s. So
Excellent.
no-
And what's the sort of timeline on the production? Just for
oh yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it too like depends on like, you know, SAG strikes, which will hopefully be ending soon. But you know, I think like the next year or so, you know, after the campaign ends, it's like we still have a ton of work to do to get this out there and like line people up and like really figure it out. But our director David has done all of these entries, and he's so detailed and good at putting the script together. So like I have nothing but faith that this is going to be awesome. Yeah.
awesome. And we can
Awesome.
guarantee anyone watching that none of this will be featured in it. So do not worry. You won't have to watch us again. You're welcome. It's imagine this, but actually good. Like that's the quality of that.
Just the special feature, you screaming different horror lines out.
Yeah, and just Ash looking just like slightly more dejected every time I shout something.
Oh god.
Featuring those gits from YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
no, thank you honestly so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for having me.
Guys, thank you.
That's great.
You could have let me outro this or not.
Go on,
I've been
go on,
starting,
Ash,
like
go on,
ready-
wrap-
trying to go for the
Wrap
past
it
10
up.
minutes.
Wrap it up.
Oh, guys, thank you very much for watching this evening. I'm your host, Super Sorrel. That's Rise Beast Geek and Tori from In Search of Darkness. Please do check out the link in the description to get back to back the campaign and get your copy. But guys, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, keep it creep.